Hey, recent headlines from immigration enforcement to violence and large protests are creating stress and uncertainty for many families in Minnesota, and constant exposure to difficult news can really take a real toll on mental health. So joining us now is licensed therapist and founder of Pash Company, Erin Pash, to talk about how to protect your mental health. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I know that we're all consuming a lot right now. I mean, with all the news that's happening, how does recent exposure and repeated exposure just take a toll on us?
Yeah, I mean, repeated exposure to anything difficult is really challenging on your central nervous system, which is what controls our mental and physical health. I think what's important to know, especially about Minnesotans, is that we're not just hearing or having exposure to the difficult news, we're experiencing what's happening on the difficult news. And so it's been pretty dysregulating for folks.
Absolutely. And so obviously everyone handles stress differently. So how do we navigate that with our different stress levels, and when do we know if we actually need some professional help?
Yeah, I mean, over these last couple of weeks and months, we've been seeing a lot of people experiencing an increase in kind of the things we've learned about over the last few years, which is maybe increase in anxiety and depression. Maybe they're eating more or eating less, sleeping more or sleeping less, having little interest and pleasure in doing things that they normally would. But we're seeing a couple of other symptoms that would maybe, call an alert that says, I need to get some help for this. And that is, I call it kind of like this rise of agitation, where people are like snapping on people and they're not really sure. And so that's a sign or symptom that you might be ready for some help. And then just some like obsessive checking of their phone and obsessive thought process, which has been causing people distraction or worsening that inability to sleep. And I would say those are some pretty strong signs that you need to do something about it.
Yeah, so you need to be really in tune with your body and your own behaviors.
You really do, yes.
Yeah, so I know that not just adults, I know we think a lot about adults and what we're going through, but we have a lot of parents who watch. How do you kind of talk to your kids about what's going on? I mean, they may see that their classmates aren't in school, or they may see people outside with signs. I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, with kids, the most important thing you have to remember is that they are not experiencing it the same way you are. And we as adults, and you kind of hit the nail on the head about like that awareness, we need to be able to ground ourselves, be able to be aware of what I'm feeling as an independent person with a different developmental stage of life than my child, and break it down. And so if you don't have all of the skills at your fingertips, you can look them up online. I mean, Google's a great resource to just be able to, how do I talk to my kid about a difficult event? But when in doubt, just ask them questions. So instead of saying, I bet you're feeling really anxious about this, ask them, how are you feeling about what's going on?
Really just checking in.
Checking in.
I know that you mentioned a minute ago about obsessively checking your phone. What are some boundaries that we can put on what we're seeing on social media or even on TV?
Absolutely. Boundaries is like my favorite topic because it's for things you want to keep in your life. My best skill that I've learned actually years ago, and it's been even more important these days, is turn off all notifications. Allow yourself to have the control of when you ingest all of that information. It can be really dysregulating if you are getting notifications constantly before going into a big meeting, or when you have to be attending to a child. And so when you can go in and access that information at your control, it really helps you stay regulated.
Absolutely. So being informed in doses.
Exactly.
Perfect. Erin, thank you so much for helping us navigate recent events, not only for adults, but for kids. We'll have more tips at care11.com/noon.